had a vision of doing this review in a bikini t-shirt, but that's not something I wanted to own. Pretend I had a good visual gag going on for this video. Spring Breakers is a movie about hedonism, about youth culture, and about a diluted sense of the American dream. These four friends in college commit a robbery in order to get enough money to go to Florida for spring break. Once they're there, they really, get into the party lifestyle with drugs and such. They get caught using narcotics at a party, so they go to court. They go to jail, but then this white southern rapper, drug dealer, arms dealer, bails them out, and with his cars and money and tanning oil, seduces them into a really hedonistic lifestyle of crime. And then from there, the movie basically goes off with how the four girls deal with that. The actual narrative is secondary to the look and feel of the film. You could call it a sensory experience. Overall, I liked the movie, I think. It's kind of hard to say. I love the editing. I'm a video editor. And it was a lot of fun to see, the movie constantly goes back and forth chronologically in the timelines in a way that was still, I think, pretty easy to understand what was happening. It sort of felt like a memory, the way you remember something. You remember, the beginning of it, and then you remember, how it made you feel afterwards, and then something that happened earlier. That was basically the way the whole movie was edited. And it is beautifully shot, I think. It looks like a music video. I really loved looking at, the lighting and the coloring. They felt intimate in some scenes, when the girls are just kind of, not even really dancing, just moving weirdly in the hallway. The use of color, I thought, was good, because there is sort of a divide between, their spring break fantasy and then sort of a reality, the fantasy scenes of them partying, doing crimes, which I'm going to be saying those phrases a lot, because that's what the movie is. They're all extremely colorful, neon, vibrant, and then scenes when they're caught, go to jail, courts, those are very desaturated. When some of the girls leave the group and decide to go home, desaturated, more realistic colors, because it's brought down to the real world. The acting I really enjoyed, because it did feel so natural, especially in scenes towards the beginning when the girls are just being friends. There's scenes where they're sitting outside singing Britney Spears songs together and dancing and just kind of having fun.
And I must confess, I still believe.
And I thought that it did feel like they were friends. So it felt very natural to watch. James Franco played Alien, the rapper, and he was absolutely just the grossest and creepiest person ever, so I guess it was actually a good role for him. So the only thing I knew about this movie, or even really the director, before I watched this, was from this trailer editing talk in school, where they brought up the trailer for this movie and how it was an example of really misleading but pretty smart marketing. The movie stars, among other people, Selena Gomez and Vanessa Hudgens of Disney Channel fame, and the trailers and general marketing for this movie really pushed that aspect, and basically advertised this movie as being something that 13-year-old fans of those actors would enjoy watching in order to get their butts in their seats. Because otherwise, as far as I know, Harmony Korine isn't really so much of like a mainstream director. I believe this was his first wide release feature. I did read that this still didn't exactly do great at the box office, but it was sort of an example of using advertising to get, any audience they could from anywhere. I think Suicide Squad kind of did the same thing with the way they marketed, like in their trailers, it's edited to the songs the same way, like Guardians of the Galaxy was. I don't know how successful this was in actually doing this, and I don't know, like, how true it actually was, but I did watch the trailers, and it is pushed a little bit. From the minute the girls arrive in Florida until the end of the movie, they're in bikinis the entire time. Through everything, this includes the scenes in front of the judge in the court, when they're in jail, when they're committing crimes, after being bailed out. They were even wearing, like, the masks, but then still bikinis. You could say this movie is a satire, which, yeah, I guess I would agree with you, and you could say that that's why they're in ridiculous outfits this entire time, but I'm not sure what he's trying to say about that specifically, because of the way it's filmed, which is that the cameras really, linger on their bodies, a lot of close-up shots, a lot of, like, slow pans up and down. It feels like fan service and male gazy, as opposed to, this is a choice that the girls are making. And that could play back, again, it could play back into the satire thing of, like, oh, this is what media has become. But then it's kind of like, well, what part of this is satire and what part of this is just mimicking the media it's claiming to satirize? This does tie into there being a lot in the movie about sort of the emptiness of youth culture and this really heavy desire for immediate gratification. That's basically what drives the motivations of most of the girls. It's shown pretty clearly through the character Faith, Selena Gomez's character, her phone call home, how she's talking about this trip was really, like, meaningful to her, like, deeply and spiritually. And then that voiceover is juxtaposed with shots of what's actually going on in Florida during spring break with, like, the wild parties, the drinking, general naughtiness.
We finally got to see some other parts of the world. We saw some beautiful things here. God, I can't believe how many new friends we made. Friends from all over the place. I mean, everyone was so sweet here.
There's that, and then also, when the girls first go to Alien's house, he has this big thing about all the stuff he has and how it's the American dream.
I got my dark tannin oil. This is the fucking American dream, yo.
So it's pretty clear that that's sort of the direction the movie is going, which is just kind of, with younger people, there's just like this real emptiness and really surface level, vain kind of desires. So that's all pretty clear, but on like a personal level, I'm not so into the message of the younger generation is like completely materialistic and empty because of, reality TV and dubstep. I think that is being willfully negligent of what the younger generation is doing. Like, it's the kind of thing where every older generation says the generation after them or generations after them are just bad for some reason or another. And it's like, there's people who think that way, but there's also people who don't. And the like the party scenes that were showing this, like this stuff in action, I felt were either extremely exaggerated or for sure not representative of the entire generation. But, you know, I am famously no fun. So, you know, I guess what do I know about that? Something pretty, I think, interesting that the film did is early on. So the girls are Faith, Candy, Cotty, and Britt, I think. Faith are pretty early on. Selena Gomez's character is set up to be the main protagonist because she's the one who has the most conflict with the other three girls. She doesn't participate in the original robbery that they do. She doesn't even know about it until afterwards. She kind of just goes along with stuff, but she also is the only one of them who is either religious or a part of a religious group. But then when conflict does arrive, she just leaves. She gets on the bus and goes back home. And I wasn't too much expecting that because that was kind of removing at that point what the main drive or obstacle would have been. If it was told from her perspective, it would have been about her dealing with it, but she just leaves, and I thought that was interesting. I had a lot of trouble telling the other three girls apart. I kind of knew who first of all, I hate that two of their names begin with C. Cotty, I'm pretty sure, is the one with pink hair, so I could like tell her apart because of that. But then Vanessa Hudgens' character, Candy or Britt, and then the one who wasn't that one, Candy and Britt, I don't think at any point I was ever able to tell apart. I feel like maybe there's something more to the way the girls were characterized. They were similar but also different. How's that for a statement? They had like such minor differences except for Faith, who left so early. I don't know if there's something more to that, or if it's poor writing, or if it's weird writing, or if it's that the characters aren't the point, which I would accept that last answer, I think. The good part about this movie is it's hard to spoil because the narrative feels so inconsequential. Even if you reveal sort of a major plot point, it's kind of like, oh, you know, all right. Like, I don't think you watch this movie to feel any sort of revelatory things from arcs. Honestly, I guess I recommend this movie. Not even so much that I expect a really large audience to like this movie. I mean, clearly, they didn't. Otherwise, I think it would have, you know, like, doing reviews 6 years or whatever after the movie comes out is kind of beneficial in that you can look back and see how long or short-lived the movie was, you know, how well it did in the box office. I think it does definitely give you a lot to think about, whether or not you agree with the themes, whether or not you think it was all style, no substance, which I think is also I think you could argue that point pretty well for this movie. But even that said, like, I mean, the style is so defined. Even if you don't watch it for the narrative, I think even just for the technical aspects, the way it was shot and edited, you know, I think that could be worth it. Like, it basically just feels like a very long 90-minute music video. So I would say that at the very least, this movie is an extremely interesting ride. Thanks for watching. I know that my last video was it was a hot second ago. I'm not even sure when. Straight up, I want to do more reviews, but I don't want to say I will, because what's going to happen is I'm going to put 1 or 2 more out and then not do another one for another 8 months or 8 years. But I like talking to no one about things that I don't know too much about. That's that. Thanks. Bye.